I wanted to see where your state of kind of like high level Destiny rewards versus difficulty champion discussion, because
Yeah.
that's been kind of a thing. So all of that stuff, I haven't chatted with you. We got to get you on the podcast anyway and pick your brain about that,
Hey,
about other stuff at some point. But
anytime, man. As long as you know, I just need a couple days.
oh yeah,
Usually pretty good about that
yeah.
stuff.
I just saw your tweet too, and you're like, "What's the point?" And then Fallout said it, and I was like, "I haven't chatted with you in a while," and it was like, "I could probably get you for a one-off Fallout." I was surprised we even got him on the show when you did. So
Yeah.
finally did, but so let's see. I need your audio,
Okay.
which is gonna be that guy. Say something.
Hello.
Cool, coming through. Say it again.
It again.
Way to be sneaky. Parts with multiple tracks, I can cut them apart, but where does that one? That ends up 4. That's 3. Cool. All right. Cool. Well, I'm gonna start recording. If you're good with that.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess I'll kind of intro this thing, I guess, since we're just sitting here chatting. Your screen is greener than mine, but that's okay. Oh, hold on. Let me center you.
You can probably green screen them depending on what you use to edit separately, but I can also. I don't really. I think we have the same green screen. I think that's like a camera saturation thing.
Oh yeah, that's just my camera version. Yeah, your camera. No, it's all good. Do you want to like center on your green?
Yeah, yeah. Boom. I think that's better. Yeah, yeah. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Nice.
Okay. I never sit here. This is weird.
You're like, I'm too focused.
It's like I have an L-shaped desk, right? As you can see, and I usually rest my arm there, and so yeah, I guess
chilling.
Yeah, I guess I've been hurting my my immersion. I'll have to go back.
Nice.
I've been chopping off my left arm in the camera. Oh man.
All right. By the way, have you see the strawberry daiquiri flavors coming?
Yeah, I did see that. I'm not. I don't
know what to think of that.
Yeah, I
don't know what they're gonna mix with strawberry to get that, and also no alcohol. So
yeah, I'm very
Ramune though, very good.
Yeah, I'm not so. Don't tell anyone, but I'm not a big fan of the energies. I'm not a big caffeine guy, and so I know Focus has the caffeine, but I don't know what it is about energy. But all the energies I've had, you can feel it. Like it gives you that kind of like, I get like a buzz right here. It's weird. It's weird.
But and not on the Focus.
Not on the Focus. I don't know if it's. I don't know what it is. The chemist can't explain it, but I'm not a bio or food chemist.
The chemist can't explain it.
Yeah, but it was the same reason. Like before I was sponsored with Advance, I tried G Fuel and I hate it because it gave me that same like it's like a skin crawly.
I tried one of theirs. Yeah, it was like the skin crawly. I've had that with pre-workouts and stuff, and that's usually like the beta aniline that'll like flush your skin and stuff. But
yeah,
I haven't had it with the energy, but the Focus. I mean, yeah, usually my favorite most of the time. But if I go to the gym, energy's not too bad sometimes, just because of the unique flavors. Anyway, random. I was just like,
oh, but yeah, I'm double interested. Is that a Focus flavor? Do you know? I didn't see.
Yeah, it's they did the little preview, so you can go look at the render jars. I think it's a Focus flavor.
Yeah, I also, me being weird, I'm not like a big drinker either. So although you can't really make things taste like alcohol dried like that because ethanol has a really low boil. So I'm not really sure what they're gonna do there. But the fact they say daiquiri, it's gonna have a bite, right? It's got to.
I feel like I was like, because I see that it looks like it's got the strawberries all over the bottom. Because there's like renders if you look in the announcements folder for the Discord.
Oh yeah.
But it looks like kind of a bar. It's got the strawberries everywhere. There's like a mug of ale, but with like a lime. So I don't know if it's gonna be like strawberry lime. I don't know if like they're gonna do like coconut rum, so that's gonna be like strawberry coconut. I have no idea what to expect.
Yeah, that's strange.
I'll wait for like a flavor profile. So
yeah, I mean,
I'm more excited about what something that's coming soon, but I can't say what it is.
Okay, who is this this flavor for?
Rip? I couldn't even tell you who that was. I saw the name. I'm like, I definitely do not know all the content creators in the world. Confirmed.
Yeah.
Rip.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like, Rip.
I think Crip Harry and it like on Twitter.
Yeah, Canadian YouTuber. Has almost 1 million subs, so yeah, not a small
I
dude.
mean, what's more Canadian than strawberry daiquiris, though, right?
I mean, that does feel like it is kind of a thing. So,
Alrighty.
all right, we'll do like an official start since
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is
go
like
ahead.
5 minutes in. So, what's up, everybody? It is Ebontis here, and this is just going to be a little different video because, as you guys can see in the video, I've got a guest. And this is Skarrow9. If you guys don't know him, I would be surprised in the world of YouTube. If you've seen my channel, you've probably seen his, maybe vice versa, depending on which channel you're looking at. But I am Ebontis, and this is Skarrow. Skarrow, you want to say hello?
Hello.
Very little, very literal. Thank you. No, I mean, we've had you on the Last Word podcast before. Always a hilarious time. But I got done doing at least my attempt on like Master Vow. We did the first section, didn't do the challenge, then did Caretaker. Kind of got DPS check because one guy was like 1569, so we were going to give it a little bit. But then I started seeing all of the stuff come through on Twitter about the rewards from Master Vow, and it kind of got me to thinking. And then I saw you tweet, and I was like, we totally could talk because usually you're pretty up for it. So what I want to do is just try and just literally sit here and kind of hash it out with you about. There's been talk about where we are in the state of champions in the world of Destiny 2, high level rewards, which I've got a couple ideas there, and just kind of the idea of high level play, rewards, difficulty. Is the juice worth the squeeze? Because I don't know, I feel like we could hash it out for a bit. So that was the idea behind this, and that was kind of the idea. So I wanted to at least start with you first on. Have you finished Master Vow? How was it? Did you, even without even just getting into the rewards, which we'll get to, how was the overall encounter, and like kind of what level were you? What level was your group? That kind of thing. Like how prepped were you?
Yeah, we beat Master Vow. We didn't really have that hard of a time. I don't AFK, but a lot of my teammates do. So like I've got some like 1590s on my team
Oh, wow.
and stuff. I think I'm like 1582 or something.
You're normal-ish.
Yeah. And just to be clear, I have nothing wrong with AFKing. I just think my wife would murder me for if our electricity bill was like, if I just left my machine running. But
You're like, it seems to be a little higher this month. It was a new season.
It was a new season, honey. You don't understand. Yeah, it was fine. I think Caretaker was the hardest for us. I think it took us like 3 attempts or something. So I might be in the minority here, but I liked the difficulty. It was fine. The one thing that I have never really vibed with is the concept of like artificial difficulty or what I feel like a lot of buzzwords are thrown around. And honestly, if Bungie throws something into the game, I'm gonna play it and it's gonna do it. And I've never really had a problem with this thing being hard for this reason versus this thing being hard for that reason. Like that's never really my bone to pick. I'll just do anything. As you alluded to, it's the rewards I more so care about, but we'll talk about that in a second. Yeah. So I like the difficulty of Master Vow. It wasn't as fun in my opinion as Contest, but that could be a thing as we didn't know the raid as much back then or all sorts of. I am kind of disappointed that nothing. The difficulty was all champions. There wasn't. I always really like additional mechanics and stuff.
Yes,
but it was fun.
We've been doing this for a while, so we've come from one of the best, which was Taken King, for mechanic choices, which was nice to see. And then since then, it feels like we've gotten away from that. We had some in like Leviathan, a little bit here and there.
That's what really confuses me, and I'll probably keep referencing this as we go on. But there's a lot of things that Destiny 1 did that everyone liked, and then Leviathan did with Prestige and regular that everyone liked, and then they just stopped after that. And there's like 4 or 5 things I can think of that I'm going to reference throughout this video, and man, I don't even know. Yeah, so the lack of additional mechanics kind of disappointing, but overall difficulty, I didn't mind it. I'd do it again. I'll probably won't do it again because no one else wants to do it again, but I would.
Yeah. Which kind of takes us into the second part of, for me, it's like, I don't know if you want to save the champions for later and talk about the loot now. Shout out, by the way.
Throw it all in.
Our advanced shakers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like one of the things you said, champions were a lot of the difficulty. And I think that's kind of like, the elephant in the room right now for a lot of the high level stuff is champions. They are everywhere at this point. If you do anything that has something above basically normal, you're going to find champions. except, which was kind of a glimmer of hope at least, the Legend campaign when you played it. That was Legend difficulty, that was contest type scaling, 0 champions. There was not a champion in that entire campaign that I can think of, and yet, if you play through it, while depending on your skill, it may not have been that difficult, it did felt good to me when I played through the campaign. It felt good, it felt meaty, the fights felt like they had some weight to them. And then when you go back through, and now that you can replay the missions for your Ascendant Alloy, which crafting would be a whole separate video, like now you go through and it's like there's a champion here and there's this other thing and you're going, okay. And it didn't feel the same. It does limit you to what you can do. And for me, champions are one of those things because one of the videos I tend to try and make are lowest common denominator for like the basic player. And I know that isn't always going to be theoretically doable, but again, everybody starts the game somewhere, whether they started at Witch Queen, started at Shadowkeep, and say, I've been trying to go through and do Lost Sector guides in my head, thinking about somebody who started at Witch Queen, limiting themselves to a lot of different options. Like, hey, I need a solar bow. You can either have Ticuu's Divination, which you got to farm a bunch of currencies for, or you're theoretically going to have to go try and do Last Wish and hope you get a Tyranny of Heaven. That is like the only 2 solar bows in the game in the past 3 years, for a random example. If you want a Void Auto Rifle, 2 are from raids, 1 is Gnawing Hunger, which might come from Xur or Banshee if you're lucky. So there's these weird situations that come up for a somewhat newer player. Me, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go through all 500 pieces of my vault because my vault's now always full. But I'm going to go through and I'm probably going to have something that fits the bill of what I need. But I know the average player, if they start out and like, hey, I have leveled up, campaign boosted me, then I got to 1550, I'm starting to work on stuff. The artifact got me like, 1565. What's this new stuff I can do? Well, you need this, and this. And they're like, I don't have this, that, or the other. I have none of that. So it's this weird moment when all the high level stuff is like champions with certain shields and match game. That's just been like a weird thing I'm seeing more and more. And I just kind of wanted to get your take on champions. You're kind of getting a feel for mine if I haven't already spilled the beans. But it's also been years now of a lot of the same stuff, a lot of the same. And we get like this season for me is one of those where Overload Bow, much more manageable. Overload Auto Rifle and SMG, please don't do that again, Bungie. I'm like, this season is one of the, I think we've had it once before. This season was one of those, I'm like, please don't do it again. They said they were going to fix it, and I feel like it almost got worse. It's probably about the same. It's definitely not better.
There's so many of those that I feel like they want to work, but they, like, unstoppable sidearm. Like, no one's doing that. Stop putting it in there.
No one's doing that. No one's like, hold on, let me go into this, like, extreme Nightfall where I got to kill stuff far away, but I need this. I need my
with
little,
a peace bond, you know? Like,
I got my little Glock in here. Like, come on.
So I think, kind of going back, I think I'm more okay with the basic champion system than more people. But where I think Bungie really struggles, and I've talked about this a little bit before, is they, for whatever reason, they always wait for content to stagnate, and then they wait 3 more seasons before they address something. And so, like, the community was iffy on champions when they first came out. And then a year went by, and then they're like, yeah, this probably needs to change. And now it's been 2 more years or whatever, and still nothing has changed. There's no additional champions. There's been no changes to the system as a whole. And so they have to be a little bit more proactive with, I think, at least, making alterations to these systems to make them either more in depth or switch them up so they don't stagnate as much or whatever. Yeah, man, I don't know. I don't. In a lot of content, I don't mind. Like a GM, I'll use anything. Like, I don't care. But the raid, it was a little annoying. A really funny moment is I am not like you in terms of always having a full vault. Like, I do, but not because I'm always keeping like a 1 void SMG. I just keep like random stuff. And so we logged in and we went to acquisition, and someone on my fire team was like, all right, you should use a solar waveframe and SMG. And I was like, I straight up just didn't have a kinetic SMG. And he's like, you don't have a submission? It's like, no, I delete them. They're like, I haven't gotten any good rolls.
I'm waiting for the crafted one.
Exactly. And so I ran into kind of the problem you were describing, and I have like a lot of time in this game, And so that's a little frustrating. Yeah, man, I don't know. And then I thought I was a lot more okay with the champion system than I saw Kujay's tweet today, which you kind of referenced as well, where he was talking about how the Scourge of the Past berserkers were kind of like early forms of champions. And then as soon as I read that tweet, it hit me. I was like, this system could be so much better. Like it could, if you just, instead of like barrier, overload, unstop, you have 3 types of champions. One of them is berserker, and then you have 2 more, and they have like little puzzles that you have to do to drop their shields or whatever. And the 3 different types are different.
Absolutely.
And it's not weapon based. It's not any, so you can use any weapon, but you have to do this maybe instead of like front back, maybe like berserkers, sometimes it's like front back, sometimes it's like top and bottom. And then like there's like little small alterations and changes that keeps things fresh.
You got to hit both toenails.
Yeah, exactly.
Like something goofy, but it's like I get exactly what you're saying. And that's what I think the campaign brought out with the Lucent Hive is you have something that puts fear into you, a difficult enemy, and you hear that super pop, you're like, I'm gonna go hide.
Yep.
And that's one of those legitimate things. Like if you don't quite stun that berserker, for example, you could get lit up theoretically until maybe they're out of that berserker phase, but it doesn't take a solar bow to manage the shield and this. I feel like we have, because some people, I think it might have been Mylan said it was like, gating, or like you need a key for the lock type situation because they already love the shields. And then now we're getting stasis weapons, which don't matter for shields.
Yeah.
So those are kind of an off-the-ball thing. So you already have one set of locks, because I think it's literally... Well, that one's match game, but I was thinking locked loadout. But then you also have now Lucent Hive, where you have the exact same thing. You can tackle them however you see fit. Do you want to get up close with an SMG? Do you want to hit them with like a waveframe grenade launcher?
Yeah.
Cool. That is up to you if you want to get aggressive. Do you want to sit back with a scout rifle? That's totally fine. It's just this point to where we've seen a couple pieces, and the Berserker one was perfect because that's a couple years ago now.
Yeah.
And that was one of those things that like you had the idea and then you went the wrong way with it.
I can't believe I haven't seen anyone ever draw that conclusion before. That it makes so much sense now that I've seen it. It's like a light bulb in my head went off. And yeah, with the Lucent Hive too, like it's cool because like you said, you can use anything, but there's that little bit of strategy where you have to close the gap and then kill the ghost. And and in things like the Lightblade GM, when there's like 2 or 3 guardians at the same time in the beginning, you have to be really smart about it, and that just puts an aspect, it's like that versus, oh, you have an overload. Let's say you're soloing like a Lost Sector and there's an overload, and then it blinks behind a corner and gains all of its health back. Like that's not fun. It has nothing to do with your skill. Like this AI just like went behind a rock. Like it's not, and I do feel like, Lucent Hive and Berserkers, those are both really great examples of end game enemies that are kind of terrifying. I don't know if you remember the Berserkers, but they put up that bubble, and if you don't shoot them, bam, like you're dead. They just like they just snipe you. It was awesome. And like I said, I not to keep reiterating, but I can't believe I had never thought of that before, and it's such a like an aha. Yeah, Bungie, this, like you already did this. Just expand on that. That's way more interactive and it's way more fun. I have never once ever like fought an overload champion and had that moment of, oh, if I don't do this, I'm going to die. Like it's just like, oh, he gained all of his health again. Like
exactly. Yeah, it's tedium. It's not fear.
Yeah, exactly. Literally, that's perfect.
Yeah.
And now I'm already like, oh, I'm using a scout rifle. Let me sit all the way back here. It's not really engaging, but where you can use whatever weapons you want, play the way you want, but you have to like do these maybe. They're kind of like quick time events almost. At least the Berserker was like.
Yeah, that's a little bit.
But obviously they'd all be different. Like I don't want just like 3. You have to shoot these very specific targets.
Yeah.
Like like maybe. One drops an orb and you have to get close to break his shield somehow. I don't really know what that would look like, and then you could damage him and stuff like that.
Just some creativity in the champion department. Exactly.
And
don't get their health back, please.
Yeah, no health back.
Stop that.
No health back, and don't take 10 years to iterate on the system once the new ones start getting dry. Like, already be thinking about ways that maybe the system could change in a year so it doesn't get, because anytime stagnating content's bad enough, but when you have to live with stagnating content, especially with no like news on it, it gets even worse. And so it's like Bungie hasn't addressed champions in 2 years, and I know they have so much to worry about. An end game is really not a lot of their concern, but it just feels really bad as an end game player, where it's like we had all these complaints about like Vow Master, for instance. Hi, Kitty.
You got a guest.
Yeah, sorry. About
All good.
Vow Master, and then like it just, or sorry, Vogue Master, and then we get to Vow Master, and it just feels like nothing that we talked about was addressed, and then it's worse because of the crafting situation, and so it's like,
exactly.
it's so frustrating.
Like,
It'll be but all of our concerns will probably be addressed 3 master raids from now. So like it's just
like part of me is slightly hopeful because what they were capable of doing with Witch Queen's campaign.
Yeah.
They saw the embrace of the Legend difficulty, probably the amount of people who probably played for Legend, because it had the right rewards, which is going to segue really well into the next piece of this.
There you go.
But the 1520 gear, like, hey, the leveling process isn't great. Well, now you got 1520. I just chopped 20 of the 50 off of your power level, which you already got to do that treadmill some, but it felt a lot better because of that. That again goes into, it's like, why would I play this more difficult thing? Well, because the power leveling, you get a jump ahead on that one, and that's going to be huge for literally anybody.
Yeah.
Which takes us into the raid now that we got done doing. So 2 things about the raid, and one is the weapons. We'll start there. Is the Adept weapons, and this is going to be debated by a lot of people for a little while, it sounds like, because Dado sounds like his video is just like, I'm not happy about it, but I've just chosen to accept it, so he's in Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah.
It looked like Astacross was like, this isn't it. I put out a video just like, this raid looked kind of, not a fan. Because mine was the armor just as much. Armor, I want to know what their plan is for armor, because for me to care about armor anymore, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But I want to put a pin in that because weapons are like what I want to start with, because armor will be another discussion. Yeah. So the Adept weapons, to my understanding, the Adept weapons only come from the challenge on Master, correct?
Yep.
And then this time, instead of it being this week, every time you do the challenge, you're going to get an Insidious, or you're going to get a Forbearance, and if you want to farm that one, theoretically you could kind of go after it, or at least you could get 3, however many. This time, it's totally random. It seems like that one, people random, were getting...
But I think it's a lockout as well. So I think at least your first 6 drops it's guaranteed to be one you haven't gotten yet. Or
you'll get one each, and then it will be
for my
random.
very limited data pool right now. Yeah. That is what it appears to be. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So nowhere to farm it. You can buy them from the chest.
Yeah, you can buy them from the end if you want to dump all your spoils. Dado did say, is like, well, I dumped all my spoils into Cataclysmic, and I did get the one I wanted, so now I got to farm all my spoils again. Yep. So there was that. But one of the more interesting debates is a corner basically Bungie has painted themselves into, is crafting versus Adept. And honestly, it wasn't something I did not expect us to be able to craft Adept weapons. I didn't expect that because they're not in, the table or anything like that. I honestly didn't expect them to be there. But now you have the debate of enhanced perks versus Adept mods.
2 enhanced perks versus 1 Adept mod.
Perks, 1 Adept mod. Yeah. Path to a god roll, RNG could screw you theoretically forever.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get your take first on this one to say, do you think the loot out of Master Vogue first is worth it, and then if you like or don't like Adept weapons, and why?
Yeah, so I'm going to be honest. The only thing, there are 2 things worth it in Master Vow. It's the title that you have to, the triumphs you need to get the title, and then that dope Sparrow.
I saw your Sparrow video.
Yeah, so like, once you get those 2 things, whatever. No, my personal philosophy is I think farming and crafting can coexist, but I think Bungie has to be very deliberate with it if they are going to do my system. And I think the way they've kind of talked about before, how ritual weapons are like they're solid. They're like a 7 out of 10, Yep. I think that's fine. I think crafting weapons, your perfect god roll crafted weapon should be like an 8.5 out of 10. And the only way to get a 10 out of 10 is to farm a 10 out of 10 perfect weapon from something like a Master Raid. But what that would require is master weapons have a chance or always drop with enhanced perks, or you can, once you get an adept weapon, you can somehow take it to the enclave and spend an ascendant alloy or whatever and make your perk adapt.
Yep.
Because there's no scenario, even with enhanced perks not being that great, there's no scenario where 2 enhanced perks is not better than 1 adept mod. Like, it's just not going to happen.
Some of them even give you some of the stats, like, oh, do I want adept reload? Well, I can get half my reload over here on an adept or on an enhanced perk.
Yeah.
And I'm getting the benefits of the other.
Yeah. And it's also future proofing, because it's like, you know, you have a farmable weapon with a perk. We saw yesterday they made sleight of hand go from 20% to 35% buff. Just like that. And so they could very easily do that the other way. And so if you farm out this god roll weapon and then they nerf it, it's gone. But if you craft a weapon and they nerf a perk, you just switch it. You know, it's not that big of a deal. And so I think the weirdest thing for me is that this wasn't addressed beforehand, and it just, when they don't address things like this, I'm huge on giving Bungie the benefit of the doubt, but usually because they're very transparent of like, hey, we ran out of time. DMG straight up said the reason there's not a Master Val memento, for instance, because they didn't have dev time. That's fine if you explain that. I like to think I'm a reasonable guy, and I like to think the community is reasonable. Like, that makes sense. But when they're completely radio silent on adept weapons and they don't explain how they work, and then, you know, up to this point, I'm very vocal. A lot of people in the community are very vocal. Like, they're just not going to be better. There's no way, unless they drop with adept perks or whatever. And we're all making these points. Complete radio silence. In the TWAB, they don't go over adept weapons at all. Yep. And then we get to the raid and they drop, and all of our concerns have come to fruition. It feels like, I don't know. It just seems like an oversight, I guess, or like.
Well, it feels like they almost. There's a point where it's like, I don't ever think anybody at Bungie is not intelligent. I actually think they're very intelligent.
They're incredibly very intelligent, for sure.
Exactly. And that's the point, is like, I think this is one of those times they knew.
Yeah. And they were just like, we're just not going to talk about it.
Well, it's like, we're not going to talk about it because it's just going to make it worse.
Yeah.
It's going to come out and it's like, you're just going to have to deal with it.
Yeah.
But it is also one of those things to where I wonder how much flexibility they have with their systems right now. Mm-hmm. But as you guys have said, drop it with an enhanced perk or a chance at enhanced perk. The top 2 are normal and the bottom 2 are enhanced. And maybe those bottom 2 could be the god roll, but you got like flexibility with the 2. Then you've got adept mods. Then you've got some parity, and they're already okay with enhanced perks. Adept mods, the only one that probably would make a difference is big ones. And that just means now I do a little extra damage to bosses and the champions, God forbid. So it's like, I feel it's one of those things. It's like, you have to think that they know these things.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying.
And it's like, and then
feels
it's
so
like
weird that they wouldn't address it in any way. You know, like say like, hey, we know these aren't great, and then something that's really small, but that also it just kind of is the icing on the cake. Adept weapons in Vault of Glass. They had a cool name. They were time lost. But these in VOW, they're just adept. They didn't even give them a different name.
Drowned.
Yeah, nothing. And I know, like most people that watch this,
like upended.
Oh, that would have been dope. Most people that watch this are going to be like, "That's the dumbest point ever, Skarrow." But it's like, it's just it doesn't mean anything. But it's a little
opportunity, though.
It's a little attention to detail that I love Bungie for. Like, they are so good at doing small things like that, and the fact that they didn't do that here just makes me feel like they didn't care, even just a little bit more about this. And I feel like adept weapons, especially from raids, are kind of almost on their way out, I guess. I don't really know. And they cannot exist in their current form. Like, it's just a waste of development time.
Yeah, it does beg the question of, why is this there when I can craft something that is likely 99% as good, if not better, most of the time, except for a couple of mods and most PvE settings. Yeah. And again, likely it will take time for me to unlock the pattern, and you could theoretically get the RNG roll, but odds are more people are, as you said, I think I saw the same thing on Twitter when you said too. It's the idea that if the sandbox shifts, which tomorrow is probably going to do a little bit of that with the 8,600 word TWAB, when the sandbox shifts and you're like, hey, these guns are now good, these guns are now bad, I need this, I want this, I don't want this, I want to switch them out.
Yeah.
The crafting table allows us to do that stuff now. Now, my issues with crafting, and if you spin an ascendant alloy, and the fact that is enhanced trait doesn't stay there, still bugs the living hell out of me. Like, if you spin an ascendant alloy, that should be a permanent thing. It should, oh, what's the cost on this one? 0.
Yeah,
Should be flat out paid
agreed.
for. Like that's
Look,
the thing. If
I'm
you,
on team.
and,
You should be able to switch the stuff in your inventory. I'm gonna be honest. Like,
oh well, yeah, I mean that'd be nice too.
there's like, I don't know. That's a little nitpicky thing. I completely agree.
That's like a UI, a systems, a background.
Yeah, that's
however their whole vault system works. Like
yeah.
that's their whole has to be like the API working, which I can give them that. But as like again, if you can see that I can unlock the pattern, if you can see that I can have a cost here on my account, that node on this gun should now cost 0 once I buy it once. Like that feels that part's doable. Not maybe might take a little work, but does feel doable at some point. So it's like, no, for me, again, that's why I said for my experiences, we did first encounter. And for us, as I said, we were managing. And I knew going through normal, I was like, and that's one thing I didn't even get to yet. The challenges in this one, this raid.
We got to talk about that. I got things to say.
I have not been as much of a raider in Destiny 2 as I was in Destiny 1. I really haven't been, which is not having a consistent group. I tripped into my raid group of basically half content creators, if not probably more than half. And we've had we were like the over 35, except a couple of us, like we're old gamer dads basically. And we've had fun in the raid. It was like the most chill day one raid I've ever experienced because nobody got out of control. Everybody was vibe. Somebody died, be like, that was me. Cool. Like the absolute chillest group I've ever had on a day one. I was like, I will raid with you guys any day one because I enjoyed it. I didn't hate my time or feel stressed or want to pull somebody's hair out of their head. Like it was totally good. I was like, and that's like the optimal goal. So it's like we've gone through and we've done these, and then the challenges came around. And every time I looked at a challenge, it was play less efficient, make this encounter do something that you shouldn't want to do. Keep this guy alive. You're like, why? To make the encounter to have to kite an enemy and like play less efficiently. And then, well, the other and the first encounter is keep the unstoppables alive until you kill them together. I'm like, okay. That's weird. And I was thinking about 1580. I was like, this is going to be a nightmare. It absolutely was for us. You guys managed it, but we didn't even do the challenge. So I don't even have an adept at all, even though we did the first encounter on master. But then the other half of it is for the triumph, you go and you don't kill the 2 orange bar guys with shields until they attack, which when they attack, then they shorten your timer. So it's like the triumph and the challenge both are be less efficient at the game. And I'm going, that I didn't like. Now, I haven't done as many challenges, but I wanted to get your take on those, as that's how you get these adept weapons. The challenges, the way to play worse, are how you get these weapons. And I'm not a huge fan of the first one. I don't know if I'm going to like any of the others.
Yeah, we're going to... I don't know if you know what Caretaker Challenge is or if you've done it, but it's...
Yeah, we've done all the challenges with, like, the single, you can only dunk one.
And then like that is the epitome. The Caretaker Challenge, in my opinion, is like the epitome of what is wrong with the raid challenge system, and it's exactly what you're saying. It's I was looking back because I was thinking like, man, raid challenges used to be so much better, but they didn't. Like there's a handful of good ones I can think of, but for the most part, raid challenges, half of them has always been, how can we make this encounter as tedious as possible? And it's just like, that's not hard. It's the thing is like the challenges are not challenging, and even worse, they're not fun. And it's it really bugs me. Yeah, I agree. I think usually raids have like 1 or 2 decent ones. Vow does not have a single good challenge. Like they're all 4 awful. And that is, as someone who is still standing this raid pretty hard, I think Vow has aged really well so far. Is still definitely my contention for number 1. The fact that there's the master mode is not great, that sucks. And then all 4 raid challenges are so bad. It's like, man, I don't know. I am not looking forward to next week. What we did, so there's 6 weapons, 6 adept weapons, and so we did all 3 of our challenges this week, so we get 3 of the 6. So we only have to do the other 3 once, because I'm not doing next week's more than once. I'm telling you right now, like that.
If you get it done, you're out. Yeah.
Oh my god, it's gonna suck so bad because the ads are actually kind of intimidating in Master, and so that means that the people who are running are taking. It's gonna take 3 times as long to do the encounter because you have to go in 9 times instead of 3. And man, I'm not looking forward to it. Yeah, I feel like, honestly, like my ideal thing, like raid challenge, the best raid challenge ever, in my opinion, is the Death Singer one in Destiny 1. And for those of you who don't know me, I hate saying that Destiny 1 did something better. Like I'm not I don't say that. I don't. Take. And I've got to say, Death Singer in Crota Zen in Age of Triumph, its triumph is what I would, or its challenge is what I consider to be the perfect challenge. And what it was, just very quickly, the encounter itself was very simple. It was like walk in a room, split up 3 and 3, kill a sequence of enemies. What the challenge was is halfway through this very short encounter, a Sword Knight would spawn and you would kill him, and then a bunch of additional enemies would spawn. And you had to kill them as fast as possible, and then you had to take the sword and you had to go kill the final boss. It was just one swing, but you had to do it. And it added like a third or an extra half to this encounter that just didn't exist before. And while it was just killing enemies, it was exciting because you hadn't done it. It was cool. It evolved the encounter. And then I think another good one is Axis in Wrath of the Machine. Once again, Destiny 1. It just required you, there's an additional mechanic that it required you to do every single time. That was completely optional, that benefit. It's essentially like Taniks, the Taniks challenge being dunk all 4 bombs at the same time. The Axis one was very similar to that in terms of it's an additional mechanic that already exists, but you have to do it every time in order to get the challenge. I like those challenges. They benefit you as a player. They're not tedious per se. They're little additional things in challenge or in the encounter, and they're good. I think those are all examples of good challenges. Bad challenges include Caretaker Challenge, like, or the first encounter of Deepstone was the same shit. It was like every person had to shoot 2 of the things downstairs, and it was like, how do we make this encounter go literally as long as possible? And it's never a good design. It's never a good design. And I've always gotten the feeling that Bungie doesn't really put a lot of resources. Like I imagine, I'm a chemist. I don't know much about game dev, but I've always imagined the raid challenge are like one guy, like, or one girl,
You're like,
one
all
guy.
right, you see what you can come up with.
Yeah, just what can you do? Can you make 50 lines of code or whatever? Once again, I'm a chemist. I don't know how this works, but they've always felt very minimal effort, in my opinion. And I don't know if that's my naivety or ignorance speaking through, or if they really are. But they've always, I guess a better way to put it, they've always felt kind of phoned in terms of
that's
what
I mean.
Is that a time constraint thing? Is it harder? Like, surely it's harder to make like a Death Singer challenge where it actually evolves the encounter. Like, right. I can respect that, but there's 100 better things you could do for Caretaker, you know? So don't stun him at all would have been a nuts challenge. I don't know if that's physically possible with the time you have,
the timer,
it would be rough.
Or like, what if you were capped on stuns?
Oh, so yeah, you can only stun him once per floor or something. Yeah.
Well, like, even if it was like, if you had to, instead of like, if it was the difference of you could only stun a certain number of times, and then if you stunned them one more, it was over. That means your runners had to be like on the ball.
Yeah.
Like that would even give more pressure to those guys in case you had only been doing 2 or we're doing, that means you had to do pick up 3 or whatever it would be.
Yeah, 4 people
and
running instead of 3 or whatever.
Yeah, like something in that nature. But no, it's like when you ask, like, I'm not a programmer either. So again, I'm not going to guess the number of lines of code. But when in my head, I can say, if Unstoppable 1, 2, and 3 die within X number of cycles or time, then challenge complete. Like, that's all they did in the first one.
Yeah.
And it's an if-then statement within a certain number of time that they die together. Now, granted, whoever coded that, I know it's harder than that, so I'm not trying to dumb it down. But in general, that's what it's asking for. It's checking to see if they die close enough together. Yeah. That is it. But what does that do to the people managing the encounter in especially master difficulty, which is what you want to do for the adept weapon? It means you now have a champion roaming around, just causing chaos for you, especially if you're the first group, for much longer. Then you're trying to stun this thing, you're trying to kite it behind this thing, maybe hide behind a wall, all while there's a lot more chaos going on and everything hurts a little bit more.
Yeah.
Which, I have no idea why Well, I have no idea if my video is going to hold up or not. It looked like it may have frozen in OBS, but I guess we'll see how that goes.
Mine's been recording, so we're good.
Cool. But that's like that weird idea of like, let's make this crazy encounter, and then this thing that you want to kill immediately, like that first group gets, and they're like, oh god,
yeah,
it's us first. It's like that should not be in the encounter. It's like that's why when I know Taken King and then King's Fall is one of those everybody's like, it's debatable if it's like, you know, high or low ranked for a lot of different people.
Yeah.
But they developed hard, and then they pulled mechanics out for normal. And it's like they said they are getting away from it, which is like Gato said that in his video. They are pushing away from that, so it's just going to be harder enemies and more enemies. And that's one way to do it. But then when you make the challenge for the weapon, that's the only way to get the weapon is to do the difficult thing. Not creative and tedious, then it's like now you're making hard encounter even harder for no reason. It feels like.
Like I said, I meant to reference Leviathan more because they did that. Like it was Leviathan had a hard mode that was one extra mechanic per thing, and it was fun. It was fine. It had its own. I don't think there were any unique weapons that only dropped in hard Leviathan, but there might have been. But I don't think so. Had its own unique armor.
Yep.
The challenges for Leviathan weren't the worst, weren't the best.
But they were a little different at least.
Yeah. Well, I remember like the bath.
It was like it was like where you had to rotate somebody out of somebody always had to be in the pool.
Like someone had to be there. And that one was funny because the scions would boop you up. I forgot about that. And if the scion booped you up, it counted as you leaving the pool. So it would fail. I forgot about that. That was good. Callus was like all plates had to be activated at the same time, which is not the most interesting thing, admittedly, but I don't know, man. Hard mode raids and challenges it just feels like a constant regression, and it's just like and once again, this could be, maybe it's not regression, maybe it's the stagnation thing I was talking about earlier, and because they're not addressing these things and because they're not iterating on these things, it just feels worse and worse every time we get it.
It feels worse even though it's the same.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, you mentioned armor. You know, this has no armor things.
That's a whole ball of can of worms for me, because armor's always one of like my big hopes for something more.
Yeah.
Because like we're getting like now crafting and weapons 3.0 is kind of what I'd call that, and all that stuff is now we're getting a lot more perks. Armor is what's felt stagnant to me for a long time from RPGs and players. Like the stats for me since like Destiny 1, since we got stats on armor, basically after Forsaken, they have been the same for years.
Mm-hmm.
The stats don't have very much weight to them. Resilience doesn't really change too much in the world of Crucible outside of like a hand cannon maybe or maybe not killing you for a couple examples and stuff like that. But also it's like, I know they're trying to do a lot with mods now, but now the mods are overstuffed because you've got the head that's like literally exploding with all the different mods that you want to put in there. Because orb generation got put up there now, and we're like, this is going to be bad. Now orbs generation they're trying to push us away from. So there's these like weird soft sunsetting things. But we got Grasp of Avarice Master, which now is 1590. I was like, that's a mess. But it has Avarice armor. Has the extra socket in there. Now, the other thing that I would like to see is armor with a little more energy.
Yes.
You're going to give me an extra socket.
Because if you
extra socket, exactly.
I completely agree. Like Artifice armor, I think should be like a dungeon thing, and raids should have their own. That is like, maybe an extra slot, maybe you don't, but you get 11 points or 12 points or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Just slightly extra, especially because the raid armor usually comes with a raid perk, or like the interchangeable raid, the raid mods, and it's like,
and those aren't free.
They're not free.
And they should be,
and you're only using them in the raid, and it's like exactly. I was actually really excited because I only use those really for low mans. You didn't need it for the low man this time, and so I was like, I'm gonna have to farm out an armor set. We're gonna use them for master, and then it's like, you do master once. It's like, they develop all these mods. They don't even matter. Have you used any? Could you name a single one of the mods for the raid?
I can't name it, but I know it's the one that when you have the persevering darkness or whatever that one is, when that builds, you do more damage.
Okay,
that
fair
one
enough.
Was helpful.
There you go.
That's the only one that I saw that I was like, hey, this seems beneficial for Rolk, because we were trying to do damage for him.
I think
so
the rest are like
one,
if you're holding a certain type of relic or whatever. So
yeah, I could see that for the exhibition part for sure.
Yeah,
but yeah,
so
that's
it's
been
like
that's been my biggest want forever is. Again, now you're just taking these mod sockets, so you're just like taking the like sandwich and you're squeezing it a little thinner and everything's like coming out the sides because there's not enough room to put all the mods that you want in there. If I have a build and I have an extra socket, I'm like, well, I want to use the socket, but I've maxed this out and I have no energy to use this one, even with one more. And that's kind of the thing. I know that. Part of it I know is their worry of power creep. I feel like it always has to be their worry of that. But on the other side, some people have said, like it was Marco Style and maybe somebody else, were like, we feel more powerful this season than maybe we have in a very long time in PvE due to what the Void builds can do. So they're worried about like, here's one energy on your armor, and Avarice has like one more socket and one more energy, so you can have a little more flexibility in your builds, and that's what you get out of this raid for difficulty, as opposed to when I see mobility spec armor as a Titan, I'm going, why?
Delete.
I was like, I don't, and I got a 60 roll on my first one anyway. I'm like, well, this is worse than everything I've held on to.
It can't be that worried about like build diversity and stuff because they're about to give us farmable dungeons, which means you can farm final boss at Pit, and you're gonna have whatever the hell builds you want after an hour. So it's like
they'll probably change him before that happens.
But. Yeah, maybe they will. Maybe they will. But it's like they can't just keep adding artifice armor to everything because it's like we already have it, and what's the difference? You know, if you already have a god roll artifice, it doesn't do anything else different. So I agree. The raids, I think 1 or 2 extra points would be cool. But it's just something, man. I don't know. I feel like there are certain aspects of the game. Maybe this is because of how they're doing it. They're like sectioning off what their renovations are or their updates are per season, and so maybe Master Raids just haven't gotten their thing yet. Master Dungeons were like the last thing that got their glow up, or I guess managed to exist in the first place. GMs sort of have gotten a little bit of a rework and stuff. I don't know about you, but I thoroughly enjoyed my time in the GMs this season. I don't know, have you done Conqueror yet?
I haven't done Conquer yet. I did solo Arms Dealer just to see if I could actually get it done. And I know that's the cheesable one, but I was like, got it done. Soloing Lightblade looks like an absolute nightmare.
Hell yeah.
So that one just doesn't seem, and that's kind of the point of, so that's a fair question. You say you enjoy your time going for Conqueror because I know you are 100% Seals guy.
Yep.
That is your, like, if you have every Triumph score point, is that the right wording?
Triumph score, max Triumph score.
Yeah, max Triumph score. If you have that, then you're like, cool, I know I did it.
Mm-hmm.
But for you also, if you've run enough Grandmasters, are there wards in Grandmasters? It's like, it's cool to see all the glowy stuff on the side, but is any of that useful for you at this point now?
I'm a hard case for this because I have max every material, but I'm a freak, so I can't let anything go to waste. So I'm like constantly infusing exotics and putting that shit in my vault. And like,
so you have you're getting a gold vault like EK.
I'm not doing that, but I have like 20 extra Ascendant shards and stuff. Like I very rarely am like, hey, let's go do a GM. But if a friend asks me, I'm also very rarely gonna say no. And so like I'll go do them, especially in double loot weeks. If there's a weapon I want, like I farmed really hard for like a hothead or like an adept hothead and an adept palindrome. So I like that, but that's because those weapons. Yeah. Everyone listen. Those weapons feel great, and it's like because I can't craft god rolls of them, you know? And so it's really disappointing. Like I know what I'm going into with GMs. They're much shorter. I would consider personally, I think GMs might be like per time investment over difficulty over rewards, like the most rewarding activity in the entire game. Like or very close, if not.
Yeah, if you got a good group, they probably are better than most just about everything. Like Trials investment time versus a smooth GM, depending on the week, especially not even close.
Yeah. I mean, and especially
you get more out of it.
And you can just do like I have friends now that like have like a burner account, and they'll load into like an arms dealer on an alt who hasn't done it on double. So like it's double loot this week on Last Way. But if you just get a burner and you load in a arms dealer and then have them leave and then just duo arms dealer, you can still do it in like 15 minutes, which is way faster than Glassway. And then you get your 2 guaranteed silicone neuromas every run, and stuff like that. And so they're so rewarding. And obviously that's like a cheesy way to do it, but they are still, even if you were just to do Glassway, way more rewarding than a master raid, or anything. And GMs feel so good. I just want that. I want raids to do that. You know, I love raids. I love spending time in raids. I just want them to feel rewarding. And title,
every encounter dropped it. I mean, if they want adepts to be RNG, every encounter could drop an adept weapon, and you still have the RNG factor involved because you have enough perks in there.
Yeah,
theoretically.
I just think they just need to be better than the craftable ones. That's it. I don't even care if it's just by a little bit. You know, like I just. They are just objectively worse right now, and so it's like I don't know. I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know where to go from here. Do they stop doing master raids? Do they just stop doing adept weapons? Do they focus? I would also mind personally if they just did cosmetics. Like some of the best cosmetics across the entire franchise come from hard raids. Once again, a Destiny 1 thing. I'll give you that.
No, oh man, Pit of Heresy is still the one that burns me the most, because if I could have had a set of armor that looked like Zolmak, and then later on you see the Pit of Heresy, what should have been the Pit of Heresy Sparrow and ship slowly cycle through Eververse. I'm like, that should have been in there, and that should have been in there too.
I'm really glad that was like a moment of reckoning, because I feel like if we didn't have that, we wouldn't have a lot of the coolest things that we have today. Like, I really like the new Raid Sparrow, for instance. Vault of Glass had some awesome cosmetics and stuff like that. Like, we are getting more of that. And if they went more towards a cosmetic approach, like Leviathan, right? Like the armor set was exactly the same in terms of perks, but it looked cooler. It had that neon holographic glow. Like, even if it's something like that, like, I'll farm for that. I don't care. I'll do that. I just wish I could
about the drip a little bit more than me.
Yeah, well, sure. I think the thing that frustrates me about the entire situation is the lack of transparency, or the lack of, maybe not. It's so hard to word this too, because like Bungie's a very transparent company. It's like
they're transparent when they want to be, though. That's actually the key. They have times where they're like, here's everything you may have wanted to know about this topic because it's like the hot button issue. But then later on, they'll like close up shop for a little while and they won't tell you much at all.
Yeah.
And it's this weird, sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, for whatever reason. It's not consistent. We go through these like up and down waves, it seems, with Bungie.
I guess the best way to word it would be like periods of like a lack of acknowledgement at all. Like, no one has said like, we're passing, or even, we're passing the feedback onto the team, or even one of the raid designers being like, hey, this is what we had time to do. Like, that one sentence is like perfect, in my opinion. That's like, it doesn't, we know we didn't do everything we wanted to do. Next raid will be better, or whatever, or should be better. Or that's all I'm looking for, or something that they've heard the feedback, or they wanted to do something else, or whatever. But, you know, nothing changed between VOG and VOW, so why do we think anything's going to change between VOW and whatever the reprised Destiny 1 raid is in Season 18?
Like everybody thinking King's Fall or Wrath, I guess, is what the big
debate seems to be. So it's like, what? Yeah, say we get King's Fall, is it... I mean, those weapons were already kind of not great. Like, are we...
Please, like, tweak those different archetypes. I don't know what you do, but they cannot... that auto rifle cannot fire the same way. That was like trying to hold on to a buck and bronco. It was terrible. And the hand cannon was awful too.
Yeah, we used to, the Bane of Zalo or whatever, I used to joke that it was faster to, instead of reloading that, just dismantle it and go get a new one from the raid. Yeah, I don't, but my point is like, are those weapons going to be craftable? If they are, does that mean Masters just whatever again? You know, it's just like,
are we in the same cycle 6 months from now? And that's the hard part when you got to see the GDC stuff from Bungie, when they showed all the little arrows on the charts and stuff that we got to see of the development cycle. And they've said this, like, the changes that they get from Witch Queen may go into effect in, say, like Season 19.
Yeah.
6 months ish. Like they have to get the data, then they have to learn, and then it has to get rolled into whatever starts development at that time. And that's going to be like season 19. So it's like we know season 19, I'm hoping, has some love for PvP because that's overdone. And that's another thing too, is when you like the acknowledgement is big. It took a very, very, very long time for Joe Blackburn to have that acknowledgement moment in the big 21 pieces of Twitter. Like that took a long time to acknowledge, and you're going, the radio silence hurts sometimes, and I understand from a company point of view, there are certain things they can say, but they're not public per se. Now they're owned by Bungie, so that's might be a little different story. But those radio silent moments really do hurt when they go on so long, when everybody's just like, please tell us something.
Yeah.
Or please have some feedback. Or as you said, hey, we were hoping to do this, but we didn't have enough time, so we do have a plan for next time. Or even if, you know what, like they were like, hey, we didn't have it in there now, but maybe in season 17, the Adept weapons, and then people are like, well, why am I farming it now? But at least you could know there's a reason down the road. Same thing as like, if the armor is not going to see, I knew when crafting was coming, like armor is not getting a 3.0. I was like, well, just, if you get a good stat armor and it's masterworked, you're kind of good to go. Again, for another year, I have armor. I don't need armor. I don't care about armor drops so often, because if you have a masterworked Stasis, Void, Solar, and Arc, that's good stat rolling.
Bro, you already got more than me. I have one PvE set and one PvP set, and I have dim loadouts. So I go to orbit, and I hit a button, and it changes all my armor.
Yeah,
stuff.
You're even. And again, I don't even use all of them because lately it's just been Void mostly. So there's 3 of them sitting there. But
yeah,
like you could tweak stats here and there, but honestly, most stats are not going to make or break the game because the stats don't have that much weight.
Yeah.
Mobility doesn't make you run faster. Still blows my mind. I even had a fight with somebody. I'm like, let's go. I'm like, and then start sprinting. Dead heat the entire time. It's never going to change no matter what you do. And it's like, unless you put an exotic on, but if you could have mobility be faster, but you know, I've always joked, I would be curious to see if in PvP, if you had 6 Titans that were slow but chunky tanks, and you had 6 Hunters that were fast, if you could have like 2, 2, and 2 kind of walking around being a little chunkier, but like a pack of like 3 were going 3 versus 2s kind of would balance out, because these were faster, these were more nimble, and then these were slower but could take more hits. And like, how would that kind of pan out?
Dude, you might see that with Arc Hunter 3.0 versus Void Titan 3.
That, I mean, that would actually be cool. But that's kind of the thing for me. And it's like, that's a long hope maybe for Destiny 3 if that ever happens, which I think a lot of us are at the point where it does feel like, I know they say Destiny 2 is going to continue for a while, but at some point, I guess since we are getting close to an hour, I figure we can probably wrap this thing up there. Do you feel with like the systems that we have in place right now, champions, kind of these master raids, the dungeons, the armor where it is, do you feel like the game as it is can sustain past Final Shape? Or do you feel after Final Shape there needs to be a tower cleaning, does there need to be a new jumping off point, or how long do you think this thing can last?
I think, honestly, I'm at Bungie's discretion with this one. Like, I think they've proven that they can revamp systems and make them from awful to great like that, without a new game. I think also, I mean, we only have one point of reference for a new game, and it didn't really go that great. So
that's true. Yeah, if you don't completely throw the baby out.
But just think about like how much work a new game needs versus not a new game. I don't know. Look, if Bungie thinks we need a new game, and this is like every time someone's like, "Oh, Destiny needs a new engine or whatever." If Bungie thinks they need it, then sure. Like, who am I to be like, Bungie, you need a new game? Like, who the hell am I? No. Like, so
are there things in the game that you feel? And again, as you said, they've built some cool systems while the game is running. That's impressive. But do you feel there's anything big enough that you feel might justify it at some point? Or do you feel like you've seen big enough shifts that if something is stuck in a place that they can make those switches? Do you feel comfortable that they can?
I think most of my problems with the game are not a Destiny 2 problem, but a console problem. Like, we have to make sure this is playable on console. So things like vault space, we know, is a direct impact of that. Size of the game, and in terms of
currency limits, that's just a one for everybody.
Currency limits. They have. While I am adamant that the main reason for the DCV was making it easier to work on the back end, they did directly cite storage limits for that. So I mean, I have to, that's obviously something that they seem to imply is limited, especially by consoles. And so I'm not really sure. Like, if you make a Destiny 3, they still have to make it available on consoles, especially because Sony just bought them. So
yeah.
I don't know, man. Look, if they think we need a new game, I'm here for the ride. I'll play and be happy with whatever content we get, and I'll provide constructive criticism where I can, and still make fun of Destiny 1 and Vault of Glass any chance I get, regardless. So
especially when Cognito's around, I love it when you do that. Anytime you jump in and be like, "And VOG is terrible," that is totally great. He's actually at PAX this weekend, so I don't even know if he's going to jump on the podcast tomorrow to go over the massive TWAB, so he's going to be sad. But no, I mean, that's the biggest thing is if you do see a spade, you got to call it a spade.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. Like, I'm not trying to say like any of this is easy. The fact that they're like more direct, like remote development focused is really awesome for their studio. They're building that new studio and they're obviously expanding. It sounds like multiple games, and I don't know, you hear rumors about like an animated Destiny show. I'm like, I will watch the hell out of that. Might be my first anime to watch type thing. Who knows? All of those things sound cool, but then it's like when you turn around and you jump into a raid challenge, this is tedious. And then you do it on Master and you get an Adept that's not craftable.
But I just don't know, like, what does a new game fix that though? I think and
that's one of those things where it's like, that's probably what they're saying is like, stuff that you guys want fixed isn't going to change with a new game. It's like what you're trying to see. And again, that's for me, it's like if they wanted to dive deeper into RPG stats mattering, that's one of those for me that feels deep enough.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that would require it, because that's really down into weapon like regen. The resilience is built into like literally PvE, PvP. Like some systems are so deep if they were going to mess with like RPG stats. That's why I've given up on caring about armor, because it is just a little stat rotation if I ever get a slightly better one. But for me, stats really mattering, probably not going to do a ton.
Yeah.
But on the other side, because I know that is such a deep intrinsic system, but as you said, it's like you could totally change, like, hey, the Adept weapons now drop enhanced perks.
Yeah, I think it's a mentality
like
thing. It's either a mentality thing or a lot of it. Maybe they have like their main visionaries or leaders or whatever focusing on like the new 3.0s and this stuff, and the master raids are just like a chore, like they have to do, or they feel like they have to do no iteration or whatever. I don't know. Like I don't know the inner workings of Bungie, but this very much seems like a mentality thing or a priority thing. I guess is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it, is if you're going to have an hierarchy of what to do, or if you've got certain tickets and these are red high priority, it's like this is down here in like blue.
Yeah, like how many people play master raids? Like 4 total.
Exactly.
So
the percentage of people are all streamers. Nobody cares about streamers,
and so it's like
creators, so it's fine.
I don't know. Yeah. I think the biggest disappointment for master raids is the fact that it drops the coolest Sparrow, but it's still not as fast as Always on Time. And I think the biggest shame is that I'm so afraid to bring that up because I know they're just gonna nerf Always on Time.
They have to know. There's no way they don't know, because everybody I've played with.
I know, but I don't like
one or two devs. I feel like we're like. I mean, that's the only Sparrow I see anybody use. They have to know the usability. I'm like, hey, what's all the high level people using? But it's one Sparrow.
I just don't want. They just can't. They shouldn't nerf it. They should all raid and the end game Sparrow. So like the Trials one should just be as fast as the Always on Time Sparrow.
It should just. Well, they also need Sparrow transmog.
Yeah, that too.
One Sparrow.
Sure.
One Sparrow. One Ghost. Let me slap my like you got transmog. Just let me cosmetic.
I just know, man. I get such a sinking anytime I see someone complain about this on Twitter. I'm like, they're just going to nerf Always on Time, and that will not feel good. And they should not do that. But I just know there's like a 99% chance that's just what's gonna end up happening.
It's been in there for a while. It would feel very weird to happen now. Somebody somewhere knows and be like, do we hit the button this week? Do we piss them off? When do we rip this band-aid off? We don't know. But also, it's like at some point, why is the speed like 160, even though that one's like 180?
Yeah.
There's still 150s that are up. I'm like, the whole Sparrow system is so oddly outdated.
Sparrow 2.0?
Yeah, like, well, that would be a Sparrow Racing League, which will never happen either.
Oh, so that's what we need a Destiny 3 for, to rework Sparrows.
Yeah.
Where did Sparrow horns go, by the way?
Yeah, those were kind of fun.
I was
like, you want to put something in Eververse, I'm only going to, if I get a bullhorn Sparrow and a you know, a Tron Sparrow, after a while, I'm going to be like, I don't need to buy another one.
Yeah.
But if you give me a horn, they
That's
already
that's
did it
free
once.
bucks, dude.
Yeah, that's $3 right here. Just, you know, pay us. We'll just take a little bit of the profits.
There
not
you
much.
go. You got Bungie creator code when?
Yeah.
Use code Skarrow9 at Eververse checkout. Dude, I'll simp for Bungie. I don't care, dude.
I've done enough. Yeah, we've all done enough free marketing for that one. I think it's totally fair.
It's worth
which
it.
Is yeah.
Hook me up.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like,
dude, sorry, not to cut you off, but I remember I was so jealous when Eververse first came out. I think it was Datto or something. They were talking about how they sent content creators like $10 of free silver so they could buy stuff and show it off. That was like back in Destiny 1 days, but
I didn't even know that happened.
Yeah, I don't think I'm making that up. Someone in the comment section dig that up.
I was like, I wouldn't be surprised to, you know, buy all the armor and show it off and stuff. I mean, that wouldn't be surprised, just like anything else. They have, you know, they had Datto go out to the studio. They had like Datto and Cactus were the ones who got to see the first Witch Queen mission. Like, certain creators still get to do certain stuff early, and that's, you know, because they have 1 million subs, and congrats to them. But, you know, we're doing a little bit too. We'll take a little bit. I'll take the first 5 minutes of the mission. They can have the full mission, but give me the first 5 minutes. A little bit. Dole it out by your subscriber count out of 1 million is how many minutes of the mission you get. We both get 8 minutes. Cool.
Yes, dude, I'll fucking take it. Whatever. I'll be like, the best 8 minutes in Destiny history. You know, I can make that work, dog.
that's thumbnail clickbait written all over it. It's so great.
I'll do it. It's just super. My new favorite thing is I'll make my thumbnails and then I'll like joke and I'll take my thumbnail and I'll just deep fry it, which is where you just pump the saturation up. Really far. I love that, dude. And so like I'll sometimes post an image of like a thumbnail and you just can't even decipher it. And
you're like, what is he trying? Can't read it.
That's how you clickbait. That's modern clickbait, dude. It's so good.
It's got to have a face, a big arrow, and 2 letters.
Brother, you're calling me out right now, okay? This is like, I don't know if you've scrolled through my channel, but
no, I know yours and some, but I mean, if you go look up any much bigger than us too, it's like the face.
It works, dog.
Like, oh no, I mean, yeah, it's like there's a reason it works.
My favorite is there's like there's some.
Yours are creative though. You're usually like holding guns or.
I see
your interactions in your thumbnails. I like.
I take a picture for every thumbnail. Like everyone's like, how many pictures of yourself do you have? 0. I don't keep them. Like I take it. I'll make like a funny face. I'll take it. I'll meme it. You can tell there's some creators that have like 2 or 3 pictures and they just use the same ones and they like alternate.
Oh yeah.
It's like, no, that's cheating.
I see yours. Nope. I've seen yours. Yeah, I appreciate the effort. I haven't done so much of the faces on the thumbnails yet. I feel like people see me enough if I'm cursing away when I'm playing Elden Ring. So
just gotta put on a little makeup and duck face, you know. You
feel like, babe, I need some help. She's like, what? I gotta get pretty. This is not pretty.
I have had sometimes
I
don't
have like, the flowing locks like Skarrow. So.
Oh man, I need a haircut actually. Hey Rolk, give me your glaive, dog. Like, holy.
And just do the like pitch black and like with the grease and just all straight back.
Oh, I can mullet it in 2022. Huh.
Please don't mullet your hair.
Dude, I might. I
like you as you are.
It's too long. It'd be hard to pull it off.
Yeah, that would look probably like a rat tail after a while or something. Not quite right. I'll do it. So.
I don't know. All right. Well, after 20 minutes of rambling, here we are. What were we talking about? Master raids are okay or something? No, they're bad. Don't do them. Do them once for the title in the Sparrow.
Yeah, if you're doing them once for the title, we'll see if they fix Adept loot. But right now, if you spend your time in the normal raid, which is more manageable, and you're probably going to get more loot because you're going to do the double chests and challenges and everything else, you'll eventually have a path to a god roll as opposed to RNG hell for maybe a god roll.
Yeah, if you only need one weapon, 5 weeks and you have it guaranteed. So, whatever.
Insidious was my first, without a doubt.
Oh no, forbearance! What the?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh no, see, I'm like a go figure guy. So when if I got a craftable 4-shot pulse, I had to.
Okay.
That was like because I miss all of those except there's like one I think raid weapon that's still a 4-shot pulse. But I love my 4-shot pulse, and now that I got it back, I'm like, I just love shooting that thing. Forbearance is next. I've just been ultra unlucky, honestly.
Yeah. Dude, wave frames are the best weapons in the game. Like, I'd sell pictures of my feet for more wave frames. Like, like they're so good. It gives you health.
Coming from Skarrow on his OnlyFans.
Dude, yeah. Hey, man. If I can find more wave frames, I'll do it. Like, I don't even care. Imagine the Stasis wave frame, right? You shoot it, and it just like
that would look really.
You know,
cool.
like the Titan uppercut. That's like crystals of growing size. It's just a Stasis one. That'd be awesome.
See, right there. I expect that 2 seasons from now.
Yeah, 3.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, that's the right cycle.
there's a delay time.
Here's the ideas right now, and then you plant the development seed in season 17. It pops out of its it has its germination period, incubation, and then pops out in season 19, and season 19 gives birth to the Stasis.
And then it sucks. It's just so bad.
Stasis crystals now do 1 damage. They just tickle you from far away when they explode.
I mean, they are gonna have to nerf every subclass in the game to make the corruption subclass or whatever the hell better. So.
All right,
it checks out.
That's good. Well, we're gonna get all of the craziness, like Void 3.0.
What are we talking about anymore? What's going on?
We've fallen off the deep end, but this is what happens when 2 content creators like have a tangent, and then we don't know how to take the train back on the tracks.
Have we passed the 8-minute mark for ads yet?
30-second mark. I think you can say an F-bomb now. You're probably safe.
Oh, yes. Dude, Bungie, or not Bungie, YouTube's really saving me with that one. I've got a mouth. It's just like...
Oh, like 30 seconds in, you're like, phew, 31. Did you see Travel Danielle when she like cursed in Mylan's video, but she cursed like 28 seconds in and it got demonetized?
Oh, no. I would have, if I was Mylan, I would just put 2 seconds of a black screen at the beginning.
I don't know if he knew until it like he didn't think it would probably get flagged. It was probably close or just like it was the first question because they were doing like a lore discussion and it was like, what's your first lore question? It's like, do Fallen have, and it was like genitalia, but a different term for it.
Okay.
And just like straight hit it. It was like first question. It was like 25 seconds in. It was like so close.
Dang, there you go. Do they?
I don't even remember. I was laughing too hard and think everybody else was too to get a real answer.
I'd probably have sex with a Fallen, so.
Oh, well. I will make sure and tell your wife that one.
Dude, she'd be for it. She'd be fun.
She's like threesome. Bring it on. You got a lot of arms. You can use them.
They have 4 arms. Like, come on. They're literally built for this. So
they can multitask. It's going to be great. I have no idea what you guys got into at the end of this fun little chat, but we have fallen way off the deep end. So I just want to thank Skarrow. Thank you for your time, man, just for chatting. This is why we got to have you back on the podcast because, again, this is way too much fun.
Yeah, heck yeah.
But if there's a random topic comes up every so often, maybe we'll do this every blue moon because it's just like, yeah, it's too easy to chat with you. This is fun.
I'm always down.
Yeah. Well, I am Ebontis. This is Skarrow. Skarrow, you want to tell everybody where to find you if you're on my channel seeing him?
I'm here. This is I'm on this video right now. YouTube Skarrow9.
Skarrow9.
I do videos sometimes. I talk about the game and then I make really shorts because they do unbelievably well, and the videos I put effort into don't do well. So
it's weird. This tiny 30-second little blip is like cool, and then this thing you put effort into, you're like 1,000 views.
Yeah.
This thing got like 20 and took me 5 seconds to crap out. That's how it works.
Yeah.
TikTok is the new world.
I don't know. We make money either way, I guess. It's just a little frustrating. That's my...
No, you're like, I'm going to put together a 1 hour and a half full complete raid guide from every perspective. I don't know if it's worth it.
And then, haha, funny looking symbol that I drew with Prometheus Lance or Prometheus Lance or whatever. Lens, Prometheus Lens, holy shit. I don't, what are we talking about? Oh, YouTube, Skarrow9, or Twitter,
or if they can find your chemistry teachings somewhere.
Don't do that.
That's too far. Please don't stalk this man.
I've tried to do my best.
He is the online creator.
Yes, Skarrow9 online creator. I only have a year in my PhD. After that, you can stalk me. That's fine. Let me get it first. And yes, everyone will have to call me Dr. Skarrow. That's true.
I will be happy to call you Dr. Skarrow.
Oh, yeah.
100%. Doctor or PhD.
Skarrow9 PhD works as well.
Skarrow9 PhD.
Every time I'm like, I'm working on my PhD, everyone's always like, oh, should I call you Dr. Skarrow? It's like, that's not how PhDs work. Like, I have to get it first. I'm not like, oh, I'm working on becoming a knight, and then you call me Esquire. You know, like I'm also working on that.
There's no middle step. It's like you've come out of high school and then you're a doctorate. Your name is the same all the way in between there.
Yes.
You're the name until you're doctorate.
There you go.
For me, it's Ebontis everywhere. Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube's very easy. And then also the Last Word podcast. We do that typically Thursdays. It's on YouTube for my channel, Iron Lords Podcast. And then if you search on audio, it's on basically anywhere you get an RSS feed.
Holy shit, you're a lot better at this plug stuff than I.
I've done it a lot. 194 episodes of a podcast. You get a little bit of practice.
Read my book on #1 New York Times bestseller or something.
that would be when we have Paul Tassi on the show.
Oh shoot, that's not me.
That's when you publish your book after your doctorate.
Dude,
then you can say,
this is a Moon Knight moment. I thought I was in my Paul Tassi identity.
Moon Knight, great show so far. If you guys haven't watched this episode, the end of this episode, I was like, what the? I'm very curious.
It's so good.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap this one up. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. Subscribe, like, follow both of these awesome people, and we'll see you soon.